There is a man in Puerto Vallarta right now who taught high school in Ohio for 34 years. He paid into the system every paycheck. He did everything the plan told him to do, and he cannot afford to retire in the country he spent his entire life serving. So, he left. He is sitting on a balcony this morning with coffee that cost him 40 cents, watching the ocean, paying a third of what his American rent would be, and by most measures, he is winning. But there is something waiting for him a few years down the line that nobody put in the brochure. We'll get to that. Because the part of this story that actually matters isn't why people leave. It's what they find on the other side. Start with the number that started all of it. In 2025, a Harris poll found that 44% of Americans, nearly half the country, have seriously considered retiring in another country. Not vacationing, not a winter home, permanently leaving. And once you see the math these people are staring at, the only surprising thing is that the number isn't higher. Here's the deal that quietly fell apart. For most of the last century, American retirement had a shape you could count on. You worked, you saved, you paid down a house, and at the end of it, you got to stop. Not rich, just stable. Stable enough to quit doing arithmetic every time you stood in a grocery line. That was the agreement, and tens of millions of people organized their entire lives around it. Then, somewhere in the last 2 decades, the terms changed. Nobody announced it. There was no letter in the mail, and the people who had built their whole future on the old version only found out when they finally arrived and reached for what they were promised. Look at what the numbers actually say. The average American aged 65 and older now spends a little over $5,100 a month. The average Social Security check, even after the 2026 cost of living bump, comes to about $2,070. Sit with that for a second. The income covers roughly 40% of the spending. The other 60%, more than $3,000, every single month has to come from somewhere else. Savings, a pension, if you're one of the shrinking few who has one, family, or going back to work. And this isn't a rare worst-case scenario. A 2025 survey found that more than half of retired Social Security recipients have already cut back on the things they enjoy, and nearly 1 in 3 have started cutting the things they need. Groceries, medications, the basics. This is the median experience now, not the exception. The strangest part of this crisis is that you can't see it. Most economic disasters announce themselves. There are headlines, there are lines around the block, there are images on the news. This one has none of that. What it has instead is millions of quiet private decisions happening behind closed doors where nobody is watching. It looks like skipping the dentist another year, buying the store brand version of everything. And increasingly, it looks like something you have already seen without registering what you were looking at. The next time you're in a big box store, notice who is working the register. Notice the gray hair, the careful movements, the people in their late 60s and 70s doing jobs they assumed they'd left behind 15 years ago. We've been trained to call that staying active. For most of them, it isn't a hobby, it's the gap. The money ran out faster than the years did. And running quietly underneath all of it is something even harder to talk about than money. The friends who moved away or passed away, the kids who chased jobs to other states, the street that looks the same but is full of strangers now, the slow disappearance of the people who used to make a place feel like yours, financial pressure and loneliness arriving together at exactly the age when a person has the least energy to fight either one. And that is where the thought first appears. Usually late at night, usually unspoken. If I can't afford to grow old here, what if I just didn't? Once that question is in your head, the internet makes very sure it stays there. You start seeing the videos, a retired nurse touring her apartment in Chiang Mai, pool included, for under $500 a month. A couple in the Algarve who walk to the market every morning and haven't felt their stomach drop at a medical bill in years. And the thing is, those videos aren't lying. The places are real, and the math is real. In Mexico, a comfortable 2-bedroom in a good neighborhood runs $600 to $1,000. A real meal out costs a few dollars. In the established expat cities, English is everywhere. The grocery stores are familiar, and the time zone lines up with your family back home. So it doesn't feel like leaving so much as moving a little further southwest. Except now your money actually means something. In Thailand, the math gets even more dramatic. A furnished apartment under $500 a month and a visit to a high-quality private hospital for the price of an American copay. Mexico alone offers healthcare that, on average, costs about 60% less than what you'd pay in the States. Portugal sells something different. Not the lowest price, it's pricier than Southeast Asia, but ease. Safe streets, systems that work, a slower rhythm that feels less like surrender and more like recovering something you didn't notice you'd lost. Which is exactly why nearly 4 in 10 American retirees who go abroad choose Europe. And then there's the destination that breaks the whole theory: Japan. It isn't cheap, the language barrier is real and the culture asks things of you, and yet Americans keep retiring there anyway. Sit with why. Because it tells you this was never only about rent. For a certain kind of worn-out American, what they're chasing isn't cheap, it's functional. Clean streets that stay clean, trains that come when the sign says they will. A society built around quietly looking out for each other. For people exhausted by the sense that basic things back home simply don't work the way they used to, that reliability is worth more than any discount. These countries aren't just competing on price, they're competing on the quality of an ordinary day, and for this generation, America is losing that contest in a way the official statistics barely capture. Now here's the part the videos leave out. Go back to that high school teacher. For the first 3 years, it's everything he hoped. The pressure lifts, he walks more, sleeps better, stops running from the math. And then year 4 arrives, and his oldest friend back home gets sick. Getting there means months of planning and a brutal flight on a body that's older than it was. His grandkids are scattered across time zones. When the youngest takes her first steps, he watches it on a phone screen 4,000 miles away in a quiet apartment. He isn't miserable. The life is still good. But he starts to feel something he can't quite name. Not sadness exactly, more the slow recognition that he no longer fully belongs to the place he lives or the place he came from. He's somewhere in between, and the in-between doesn't have an address. This comes up constantly in expat communities, always said a little quietly, like a confession. You leave for a few years, and when you turn around to look back, the life you assumed was still there, waiting, frozen, ready for your return, has kept moving without you. The neighborhood didn't wait, the friendships thinned. You quietly built something new while assuming the old thing was still on pause. It wasn't. And then there's the paperwork nobody warns you about. Most people assume leaving the country means leaving the tax system. It doesn't. The United States is one of only 2 nations on Earth, the other is Eritrea, that taxes its citizens based on their citizenship, not where they live. Carry an American passport and you file a federal return every single year, forever, even if you earn nothing in the US, even if you owe nothing at all. On top of that, if your foreign bank accounts ever cross $10,000 combined, not a high bar, you owe a separate report to the Treasury, and missing it carries penalties that can be severe even when the mistake was honest. Worse, many foreign banks have decided American customers are more trouble than they're worth, so people land in their dream city and discover that opening a basic checking account is the hardest thing they've done all year. And the one that genuinely frightens people, Medicare, stops at the border. With very few exceptions, the safety net you paid into your entire working life covers nothing the moment you live abroad. Not less, nothing. Private care in Mexico or Thailand is often excellent and affordable, but imagine being 74, in a hospital at 3 a.m., trying to describe your symptoms in a language you don't think in, through a translation app that keeps guessing wrong. The care can be good, and the night can still be terrifying. So here's the question that won't go away. If it's this complicated, why does anyone still want to leave? The answer lives in the space between two numbers. 44% of Americans have seriously considered this. Roughly 1% of Social Security recipients have actually done it. Around 760,000 people. The dream is enormous, the follow-through is rare, and that gap isn't ignorance. It's the full weight of a real life landing on a person all at once. Because nobody actually retires in a country. They retire inside a system they spend decades learning without noticing. Which pharmacy stays open late, who to call when the heat dies in January, which neighbor checks in when things go quiet. Move abroad and you surrender that entire invisible web in a single afternoon and start rebuilding it from zero, in a new language, where you know almost no one. People can endure a familiar kind of hard far more easily than an unfamiliar kind of better. And nothing ends these conversations faster than one image, being on the wrong side of an ocean when someone you love is in trouble. So most of them stay. They run the numbers, they pull up Lisbon on the screen one more time, they feel the true cost of uprooting everything, and they quietly choose the difficulty they already know. Then they make the small cuts, year after year, until they're living a retirement that looks nothing like the one they were promised, and exactly like the one they can afford. And that's really what this whole story is about, a promise. For generations the deal was simple: contribute, do the right things, and your country will hold a dignified place for you at the end. Not luxury, just security. The numbers today say that promise is fraying, not for everyone, not completely, but enough that hundreds of thousands have already voted with a one-way plane ticket, and millions more are sitting at the kitchen table running the same quiet calculation. The people landing in Mexico and Portugal and Thailand aren't making a political statement. They're doing what people have always done when the place they live stops meeting their most basic needs. They're looking for somewhere that will. The only real question left is what it says about a country when so many of the people who built it decide they can't afford to grow old inside it, and choose to disappear, one silent departure at a time with no headline to mark that they were ever gone.